In this video, we're going to learn about classes and attributes. So let me just really quickly go through over selecting things from our DOM, but just like in CSS. So let's create a const. And let's say we call it first li. Okay, and let's assign it capital, not capital Li. Let's assign it grab onto something to the DOM. Let's use query selector, and let's grab onto the li. And let's use first child. Okay, so if I would console log this first li, let's see what we get. We will get our very first li from our document object model. Now let's say we want to remove it. We know how we can do this. So first li dot remove, and this is just remove the first li. This is pretty straightforward. Comment this out. Exactly as we did up here, we could also let's say take the last one. So let's say this is last. Okay, so we got now the very last. Let me also console log this. Okay, let's see, it's this one. Okay, we can also remove this, or we could also use now, let's say we go down here, create another const, and let's name this nth ul, and let's grab on from the document with query selector all of the uls. Now if I would console log, let's see, we would get a node list of our ULs. Now let's start working a bit with classes. So let's say, and first of all, let's take here a comment, classes, actually create new element. So get used to creating elements. Let's create a const. Let's call it a li element, and let's grab onto the document and query selector. So query selector, and first of all, I'm going to grab on from the DOM to a li, and I'm going to grab onto the first child. Okay, so let me comment everything out up here. Now let's console log this so we know what we have. We should be the very first li. Okay, now let's create a variable called let with the keyword let child. Let's call this child element. And let's go into our document, and let's create here, create a new element. I'm going to create a anchor tag. Okay, so a. Now let's give this a class. So we're going to grab onto the child element, and we're going to add a class name equal to, and we're going to add the string new child. Okay, so if I would console log the new child, the child element that we just created, let's see, we will have our anchor tag right here. Now let's append it to this li. Okay, so we not needing this. Let's say li dot append child, and we're going to append our child element, just the name of child element, type it in here, and we should, I don't see anything because we also have to give this some inner text. So let's go with child element dot append child. Again, we're going to append this time a document create text node, and let's give this a name of, let's say, just link. I want to create here a link element. So there it is. There's a little link. Now also let's add a few attributes to this. So let's say I'm going to grab onto the child element and let's style it a bit. So dot style, text decoration, and as always a link should be underlined. Okay, not undefined, underline, and there should be a string. So we have an underline, and let's also give it a color of gray. Okay, so this is usually how a link looks, and we can also give it a style dot cursor, and here it should be pointer, not pointer, pointer, and end the string. Okay, so if we go over it, our mouse turns into a pointer. Okay, now let's grab on to the new element that we created, so to the anchor tag that we just created, and if we take a look at our li item, we can see that the new element is actually a child of this li. So if we go into our console log, okay, this is a child of this li. Now, because I don't want to constantly type out that element li child, actually let me, if I want to grab on to this first child right here, I would do then li element dot children, and let's grab on to the very first one. Actually let me console log this. I'm going to cut this out here, paste it here. This should grab onto our, not in here, we need a console log. So console log, and we're going to paste this in here. Okay, so there it is. There's our element and with its properties. So let's create a const, and let's call it new child element. Okay, and I'm going to assign this new child element this value, so I don't have to constantly reassign it. And let me also create a let with new child, and I would constantly change this let. So I'm just going to initiate this variable, and I'm going to assign new child is equal to new child element. Okay, so I'm just assigning it this value. Now if I console log new child, it should have the value exactly as up here. Okay, so we could now take this out, and we also don't want this console log, so we're only having this one. Okay, now let's grab onto our new var that we just created, so a new variable, and check if it has a class. So let's type in here comment, let's see what we can do with classes. So classes. Okay, so new child, the variable that we just created, is equal to new child element, and now dot class name. Okay, and I'm going to take this console log, put it down here, and you can see it gives us now the class name of the new child. Because if let's have both of these console logs. So if we go, now we're console logging the element itself, and down here we're console logging its class name. We're checking if it has a class, and if we take a look in our element, it has the class of class name new child, And down here, when we console log in the check of its class, it gives us the class, which is actually a string. Now we could also do, let's see, let's copy this, and I'm going to change this to class list. Check this out. This will now give us a DOM token list, which we can access like an array. Okay, so you can see here DOM token list, and it has only one thing in it. So actually, if I would take this, copy it again, and let's say I want to take from our DOM token this new child string, then I would treat it like an array, type in 0, and I'll see it gives us again new child. Okay, so we can also actually add a class to this. So let me comment this out so we can see the class. It has new child, only one class. But down here, if I would take now, actually let me type in new child is equal to new child element dot class list. Okay, and now we would dot add to this class, and let's say we're going to add secondary class, second class. Okay, so now if I hit save, we should have two classes in it. Actually, here I'm assigning it. I should do, wait just a sec. I should actually like this. So I'm taking the element and giving it a class. And let me first of all comment out this. Okay, so I added a second class, and now we're console logging again this new child element. And we take a look in here, see we have now two classes. So let's console log this again. So we're console logging exactly this again down here. And let's say we're going to grab onto number 1 now, again second class. And if we grab onto the first item, which is 0, we get new child. So the very first class. We could also remove this class. Actually, let's go back here. No, we don't want this. Let's take this out, and we could now dot remove. And here we'll just type in the class name. So second class. And if I would hit save, again, we don't need this. Not assigning anything, we're just removing. And now because we're console logging the class name from up here again, you see the class is removed. Also, if I would do, let's say I'm taking this out, we have both of the classes. Okay, if I would do number 1 dot remove, this would not work. Okay, so when we're removing something, we have to do it within here, within the argument of the method. Actually, let me just hit a few Control Z's, and there we go. Okay, now let's take a few minutes and look at some attributes. So let's type in here comment attributes. Now, because it's a link, we could add a few attributes to it. So let's say I'm going to initiate here a let and call it attribute, or att, and let's give this attribute first of all, let's assign it to the new child element. Now dot set attribute. Okay, so we're now setting an attribute, and when we're setting an attribute, first have to tell it what the attribute is. For example, a link should always usually has a href. Okay, and then what should this href do? Well, let's say it's going to go to https / google.com. Okay, so if I would hit save now and click on our link, it would, connection is not provided. What did I type in here wrong? Google.com. Oh, Google. Okay, let's hit save again. Let's try this again. So now let's try this again. Okay, now it's working. So because I was lacking that either Yeah, so this is one way of doing it. Now we just opened our page, but let's say we want to have it in a new page, so we would need the blank attribute, the target attribute, and it should be blank. So let me take this and add another attribute, target, and here let's just say blank. Okay, so now if I click on the link again, it should open in a new page. So let's try this, and there we go, it opens in a new page. Okay, so let me just console log this down here, this att, and let's take a look at prompting with undefined. But now let's take a look if I would wanted to get a attribute from it. So let's see what kind of attribute it has. Instead of set, we're going to type in get attributes, and this will, well, not give me all of the attributes because we need to tell it what it should get. Let's say the href. Okay, so now it's getting me the href from this attribute. If I would replace this with target, it's giving me blank. Now we can also check if it has an attribute. So att new child element, and let's check if it has attribute. And now let's check if it has a href. So it prompts me true. This will always return a boolean, true or false. If I would now check if it has a style attribute, it also returns true. Let's say if it has an ID, false. Does it have a class? True. Okay, so we could also remove we could also remove an attribute. So let's say att actually new child, because it's now a method, new child element dot remove attribute, and we just need to type in here what we want to remove. So let's say we're going to remove the target attribute. Okay, and now if we take a look at our DOM list, actually let me console log just the attribute, document new child. Let's see, we no longer have the target attribute. Also, if we check, if I would type in here, has attribute of target, let's say, it would prompt me with false. It no longer has the attribute of target. If I would comment this out, then it prompts me true. Okay guys, so well, that's pretty much it for classes and attributes. So see you in the next one. Bye bye.